I'll just mention the details which we covered last class, just the last bit of it, and then we move on to the new one. So the most important thing which we were considering last time on Wednesday, when the spirit in man breaks loose, when the spirit in man breaks loose, for even from every particle of matter, from every particle of matter, only then that entity enters upon the course of nirvana. So the doors of nirvana will be open only when all the particles of matter, they are not there, and the spirit in him will move towards nirvana. That's what it means. Not even a particle of matter should be there. And that state of nirvana is eternal and unchangeable. And he only will exist in spirit. The person who is reached the stage of nirvana will exist in spirit and not attached to any form or shape or even a semblance of a form. Something looking like a form also he will not have. It will all be spirit. That form, at that point of time, is lost and there is no death afterwards. If there is a form, there is death. No form, no death. So he will have no semblance of a form, and that he moves to a stage of spirit. And if there is a form, there is death. So there is no form, no death. And spirit is not illusion, and it is a reality. And it is part of this illusory universe, and then passes forever to become part of the universal spirit. So nirvana is a stage where, maybe one stage below, where he becomes part of the universal spirit. So this is where we stopped last time. So I'll take up further study from here, from the notes I have made. Okay. Having briefed us about the philosophy of Buddha and Buddhists, HPB turns to Pythagoras. Pythagoreans based their philosophy on the tenets and teachings of Buddha. So this is which we have to remember very clearly, that there is a lot of resemblance between what Buddha taught and what Pythagoras taught. That's the reason. The reason is the Pythagoreans also believed and followed the tenets of Buddhism. So having briefed about the philosophy of Buddha and Buddhists, HPB turns to Pythagoras. Pythagoreans means people who follow Pythagoras base their philosophy based on the tenets and teachings of Buddha. It is the spirit which gives life and motion and partakes in the nature of light. And can it be reduced to non-entity without spirit? This is the question. It is the spirit which gives life and motion. When the spirit is not there, nothing moves. As long as the spirit is there in the body, there are movements. When the spirit is not there, there are no movements. So HPB is saying it is the spirit which gives life and motion. So the study in consciousness also says these are two terms. Life and consciousness are the two names for the same thing. So it is a spirit which gives life and motion and partakes in the nature of light. Light means the wisdom or whatever. Can it be reduced to non-entity? Will it become non-entity? Means in spirit he is alive, in matter he is not alive. So in a way, if you want, because there is no form, he can say he is non-entity. Without spirit, matter is dark, bereft of light. Without spirit, that means matter, when it is not occupied by spirit, it is dark and it is bereft of light. Light is not there. Bereft means without light. Without light. So with light means spirit is there. Only when the spirit is available, we have light, we have movements, we have motion in this body. When the form is not there, the spirit is continuing. Spirit is an entity, and we can't call it non-entity. We are used to calling only the form as entity, but spirit is the real entity. So without spirit, matter is dark, bereft of light. So this is what we need to understand. They ask, even a brute of a person has also that spirit in him. The Pythagorean says, even brute of a person means a person who is almost like an animal, brute force he uses, like the animal uses as a force, and he has not got the refinement in him as a human being. But even those people, brutes of a person, also has the spirit in him. So the spirit is always there in all the things which are alive. That spirit is sensitive and it has memory and other faculties which have rationality and reason. So the spirit is sensitive, it's able to sense all the things which are given to that person or exposed to that experience of the spirit. The spirit is sensitive and it has memory and other faculties which have rationality and reason. Means the spirit also has got the ability to think and decide, because spirit is alive in a different state. So spirit is sensitive and it has memory and has got other faculties which have rationality. Rationality means trying to understand the rationale behind, the reason behind anything which is happening. So rationality and reason, both are the same. Reason is karana, rationality is the essence of the karana. So both are there, and that is what reason is all about. And these faculties die, the brute becomes nothing. So if these faculties are not there, even brute will become nothing. Brute also has the spirit. Brute also has the spirit, and that spirit in him is there, but he doesn't act in a refined manner because of the coarseness with which he's been having his life. The body is coarse, the food which he eats is very, very coarse. Everything about him is coarse. So spirit is not fully awakened in him, but spirit is there. The spirit which is sensitive and it has memory and also other faculties which have rationality and reason. And do these faculties die and the brute becomes nothing? This is the question. When brute dies, these faculties also die with him, is the question which the Pythagoreans have asked. Then she says, Mr. Whitelocky Bulstrode. This is the name of the person whom now HBB is bringing in. Whitelocky. White is the same spelling as we know, White. Locky is Locké. Bulstrode is Bullstrode. Whitelocky Bulstrode. That's the person's name. He followed Pythagoras. And his philosophy. And he says, Mr. Bulstrode says, if these brutes breathe their spirits into the air, and then what happens? They vanish into thin air. So this is what, because the question was raised by Pythagoreans, and perhaps they were examining it as to what would happen when the brute will he become nothing when these faculties die, or when he dies? That's what the question they were raising. And Mr. Whitelock Bulstrode, who followed Pythagoras, maybe during the time of Pythagoras, the students did not get the proper answer, but Whitelock tried answering. Whitelock Bulstrode, a person who followed Pythagoras, he says, if these brutes breathe their spirits into the air, the entire spirit, so if there is an expression of this spirit which is there in the man goes and merges with the spirit, or the entire thing outside is what we normally describe. There is something like called a Vayu inside. This Vayu goes and meets with the Ananta Vayu, means in the infinite air. That is what we normally speak and describe death as. So he says, if the brutes breathe their spirit into the air, and then what happens? They vanish into thin air. Air is proper place to receive the breaths of the spirits. So they're just talking about air. Air is the place first where these breathe, the spirits leave their presence. Air is the proper place to receive the breaths of the spirits. So first when the spirit is breathing, the first place where it comes into contact is air. According to another writer, Leritus, Laeritus, that airspace is full of souls, souls, Atma. According to another writer, Leritus, that airspace is full of souls. And Epicurus, about whom we have heard in the past, that place is full of atoms which pulsate in all things and in all beings. So overall, what do they say? What do they suggest? That space above us, whether it is air, whether it is akasha, whether it is, all this is full of life. So this is what they're saying. And what Mr. Whitelocky Bulstrode says, the brutes, when they breathe their spirits into the air, and then what happens? They vanish into thin air. The brutes breathe their spirit. The spirit vanishes into thin air. They vanish into thin air. Air is proper place to receive the breaths of the spirits. Air is the proper place to receive the breaths of the spirits. And according to another writer, Leritus, Laeritus, that airspace is full of souls, Atmas. And Epicurus, he says that place is full of atoms which pulsate in all things and in all beings. Even the space where we are living, there is a portion which is physical and there is a portion which is spiritual. And this space can also receive all forms. This is what, see, actually we do say that all that we are talking about, the higher realms, they're all there here only, but we're not able to see with these eyes, and we see only what is physical. But everything is here. The physical is here, the astral is here, the lower mental is here, the higher mental is here. Even the higher things are here. We're not able to see. So all this is something which we need to keep in mind when we understand what these people are writing. The person who is Whitelocky Bulstrode and then Leritus, they say airspace is full of souls. Epicurus says that place is full of atoms. That means there is life. Whether you call atom is made of atoms are part of life. So Epicurus says that place is full of atoms, and Leritus says the airspace is full of souls, so which pulsate in all things and in all beings. Even the space where we are living, that means the physical space, there is a portion which is physical and there is a portion which is spiritual. This goes without saying, because I just now, as I said, entire thing, whatever is there in the macro universe, is also visible to us here. Not visible, but we can feel it if we close our eyes, maybe if we can meditate, maybe we can move around. That's the thing. And this space can also receive all forms. So even this space can receive all forms. That means the space in the air also can receive all the forms or the essence of forms. The air itself is above or beyond the capacity of the eye. We can't see air, isn't it? We can't see air. We can feel the air. The air itself is above or beyond the capacity of the eye. We can feel the velocity of the air. We can hear the sound of the air, but we cannot see the air. This is obvious. We all know this. Maybe we are not conscious of it, but this is very true. Even the space where we are living, there is a portion which is physical and there is a portion which is spiritual. This is well known to us for those who have read about the basics of the planes of existence, the physical plane, the astral plane, all that. When we number it from 1 to 7, all these 7 are here as at the place where we are sitting right now, interpenetrating, and they're all available. And each of these planes, as someone like Narendra Chaudhary or somebody who spoke in the morning, Madhav Chaudhary, subplanes are there. Each plane has got subplane. So totally we have 49. Physical plane has 7 subplanes. The astral plane has 7 subplanes. Like that, if we keep on adding all the 7 into 7, 49 subplanes are there. So the air itself is above or beyond the capacity of the eye. Eye cannot see. Eye cannot comprehend the air. We can feel the velocity of the air. We can hear the sound of the air, but we cannot see the air. It is invisible. Above this level of air is ether. Above this level of air is ether. So this is how they're talking about the spirits and the physical presence of a person. And Pythagorean philosophy also is almost same as Buddhist because they followed the teachings of Buddha. And so Pythagoreans also believed in what Buddha said. Then next, Pythagoreans, they say it is the spirit which breathes, not the form. Form cannot breathe. Form outwardly it looks like yes, it's having a nose and it have got all the breathing, lungs, everything. But really speaking, Pythagoreans, they say it is the spirit which breathes, not the form. It is the spirit which breathes, not the form. Ether is incorruptible. Ether is incorruptible. All the writers, philosophers agree on this, that ether is incorruptible. So we cannot pollute ether. We can pollute the air. We pollute the air by sending a lot of emissions from the ground. But ether, we cannot corrupt it. That's what the statement goes. Pythagoreans, they say it is the spirit which breathes, not the form. Ether is incorruptible. All the writers, philosophers agree on this, that ether is incorruptible. What is incorruptible cannot be annihilated. This is another statement. So, ether is incorruptible, air is pollutable, but talking about ether, they say ether is incorruptible. All the writers and philosophers agree that ether is incorruptible. And the following statement, the corollary is more important. What is incorruptible cannot be annihilated. What is incorruptible cannot be annihilated. Ether is incorruptible, it cannot be annihilated. So when the form is gone, it has no body, no form. So form is gone, it has no body. We can't ponder over it. We can't think about it because we can't see the form. It is not visible and it cannot be divided. So we can't see it. We can't divide and see. We can't see the head portion of it or the leg portion of it, things like that. If we're talking about a human being. So when the form is gone, it has no body. We can't ponder over it, means you can't think about it. It is not visible and it cannot be divided. So it exists, but still exists not. Exists where? Exists as a spirit, but it doesn't exist in form. This is what it means. And that spirit existing, which is immortal for the time being, the immortality also, the spirit also goes away when this individual spirit merges with the universal spirit. That's at a much later stage. But at this stage, when that spirit is alive, it has no death. That is immortal spirit. It has got immortality as its quality. So what is immortality? The spirit is immortal. The form is temporary. Form is destroyed. So ether is incorruptible, and what is incorruptible cannot be annihilated. So when the form is gone, it has no body. We can't think about it. It is not visible, and it cannot be even understood when we divide and wanted to understand. So it's not there. So it exists, but still it exists not. What is existing not? The form is not there. So the spirit can take another form sometime later, but the present form with which we are familiar, that form is gone. But something is existing. What is that which is existing? The spirit is existing. So that spirit which is existing, which is relatively immortal till the time this becomes part of the universal spirit, it is called immortal spirit. So it is having the quality of immortality. Amrita Tattva, that's what it means. Immortal means it has no death. Immortal. It is not perishable, it exists. So the spirit is immortal. And when it is completely detached from every particle of the form, then we say it has reached nirvana. So this is, who is talking now? It is Pythagoreans who are adopting the theory of Buddha. They are talking about this, and the followers are talking about this system. So they are also talking about nirvana. or a state where there is not going to be life by default. Life by default means you have done some work, some karma, so you are bound to come back, or you have a portion of the form which is existing in you, which is still continuing. You are not completely devoid of that form. Completely, it has not gone away from you, because there is a remnant of that form. There is work for that form. So that remnant of the form will force you to come back into the earth. So when completely you're detached, not even a particle of that particular form is adhering to you or attached to you, not a single morsel of that, a small portion of it is also not attached to you, then you go to the precincts of nirvana. That is nirvana. So the spirit is immortal, and when it is completely detached from every particle of the form, that is nirvana, or jivan mukta sthiti, as we call it in Sanatana Dharma. Jivan mukta sthiti, as we call it in Sanatana Dharma. That's the same thing which they call it nirvana in the Buddhistic philosophy. If there is some slight attachment to form or particle of form, it is good enough reason to take one more birth, to work out and get free of that attachment. So form means attachment. This is something which we have to understand, because not even a particle of the form, if it is not there only, we reach nirvana. And so, as we call it, if there is some slight attachment to form, if there is some slight attachment to form or particle of form, it is good enough reason to take one more birth, to work out and get free of that attachment. Somebody was asking from Nellore, she is not a member of our society. She wanted easy way to reach the stage of Jivan Mukta. She's got a husband, husband is working, she's got a daughter, she's got a son, maybe all that is there. She wants to reach a stage of Jivan Mukta. And what is that I should do? She was asking. I said, you should live a life where you don't practice due attachment, not undue attachment. If you can do that, slowly it will work out, and then you can reach that stage. That's what it was conveyed to her. So what exactly is being talked about here by the Pythagoreans also is the same thing. If there is some slight attachment to form or particle of form, it is good enough reason to take one more birth, to work out and get free of that attachment. So we have to work it out. We have to work out our attachments. As long as attachments are there, you will have to come back. So attachments have to disappear from our, means that mentally get detached. Not that we can singularly do something physical to get rid of the form or attachment. It is the mental exercise which one has to do. So nirvana is a state of complete nothingness. Nirvana is a state of complete nothingness. It is not a place or a region to be reached. It's a state of nothing or nothingness. So like in the key to Theosophy, we learned heaven is not a place. Heaven is not a gamyam or a place where we reach after some travel. So similarly, nirvana is a state of complete nothingness. Absolutely nothing is there, but still that spirit is alive, and it has reached a stage where it need not take another birth. It is not a place or a region to be reached. It's a state of nothing or nothingness. The word has been split. Nothing, if you write together, it is nothing. If you say no thing, that is also one way of understanding. So this is how it has been described. It is not a place or a region to be reached. It's a state of nothing or nothingness. So this is the stage of nirvana, where there is not even a particle of attachment to any form, and the spirit is alive, spirit is immortal, and that spirit has not even anything which has got a semblance of a form in it. So that is the stage of nirvana or jivan mukta. So when man reaches this state, according to prajna paramita, prajna is consciousness, paramita is tenets or wisdom. Prajna paramita, this is a Buddhist expression. Prajna is consciousness, paramita is tenets or wisdom. Paramita, we hear this term very frequently in the voice of the silence. So when he reaches this state, according to the Prajna Paramita, Prajna is consciousness and Paramita is tenets of wisdom. When this stage of nirvana is reached, the spirit gets to that state, and that's perhaps what somebody was asking some other teacher the other day. Bondito Swargam, Unda, is it there? Can one reach heaven with this body? It's not possible. But then the Puranas have talked about it. But what it means is there is another form which this particular individual has taken, that is the form of a spirit, and that spirit has reached there. That's exactly what we have to understand that way. The spirit gets to that state. So, Bondito Swargam Ledu. We don't have a method of reaching with this physical body the heaven. That's not possible. The spirit gets to that state. Body cannot reach the next plane. This physical body cannot reach the next plane. How it can reach heaven or attain state of nirvana? So this we know, we understand. It's not possible because the atoms here are different. The atoms with which the physical body is made in the physical plane are compatible. So it is here. The next stage itself, next plane itself, the atoms are different. So this body cannot function there. So that's how each plane has got different material and different bodies to suit that plane. So that is what Theosophy in a way is teaching us. Nirvana is a state of complete nothingness. It's not a place or a region to be reached. It is a state of nothing or nothingness. When he reaches this state, according to Prajna Paramita, Prajna is consciousness and Paramita is tenets or wisdom. When this stage of nirvana is reached, the spirit gets to that state of no more births, living only in spirit. Body cannot reach the next plane. How it can reach heaven or nirvana? The physical body cannot. At that stage, the spirit is free. And there are four truths which Buddhism is talking about. At that stage, the spirit is free, and four truths, it is free of four truths, they say. The spirit state is free of pain. There are four things which are not affecting the spirit. What are those four things? It's free of pain. The first thing is the spirit has no longer any ability to feel the pain. So it's pain free. Number two, pain doesn't happen. That is, production of pain is not there. Free of pain itself suggests that there is no pain, but new pains also will not be there. Pain doesn't happen. That is, production of pain is not there. That's the second truth. The first truth is free of pain. Second truth is pain doesn't get manufactured henceforth. Pain doesn't happen. That is, production of pain is not there. Pain, we know, is more attached to the physical body. We know it is attached to the physical body. We feel painful when we have a physical form to suffer. So because we don't have the physical body in the nirvana state, if someone reaches the state, what happens there is, it is free of four things. Free of pain. Pain doesn't happen. That is, production of pain is not there. Third, the annihilation of pain takes place. The annihilation of pain takes place. The complete removal of pain takes place. So that's how we are free of pain, as it has been said in the first truth. Second truth is no new pain is becoming part of our spirit. Third, the annihilation of pain takes place. This is the third truth. The fourth, the way to the annihilation of pain, the route to annihilation of pain is formed. This is what it is. The way to the annihilation of pain, the route to annihilation of pain is formed. This is the fourth truth. So these are all the four truths that would happen to a person who reached the stage of nirvana. This is what the book talks about. This must be a part of the prajna paramita. At that stage, the spirit, which is free of four truths, spirit state is free of pain. That is the first one. pain doesn't happen, that is, production of pain is not there, number 2, and the annihilation of pain takes place, number 3, and the way to the annihilation of pain, the route to annihilation of pain is forming. So, if the other way around, if you take it round, it should be the route to form or annihilate pain or to remove pain that forms first, and the annihilation of pain takes place second. Then there is no more new pain manufactured, that is 3, and everybody or every person who reaches the spirit at that level of spirit is free of pain. So instead of going from 1 to 4, if you go from 4 to 1, it looks more logical. The way to annihilation of pain, the root is formed. So that is 1. Number 2, annihilation of pain takes place. That is number 2. I am reversing the order so that it becomes more logical. The way to annihilation of pain, the root is formed. 3, the annihilation of pain is taking place. There is no new production of pain, having destroyed the painful structure. The path is not there. And finally, the spirit is free of pain. So this is the 4 truths which the religion talked about or Buddhism talked about. And then, what is the source of pain? Having discussed about freeing oneself from pain, putting an end to the pain, not producing new pain, and not having physical body, so I will not have pain. Having realized all that, the annihilation of pain is also taking place. The method of reaching that annihilation, the route to annihilation, the route to reach the stage of annihilating the pain, that route is also formed. Having done all that, now he is asking, what is the source of pain? It is existence, which includes birth, decrepitude, and death. This is a word which has come for the first time now, which includes, it is existence, it is living, which is causing all the pain, which includes the 3 stages in it: birth, decrepitude, and death. Decrepitude is getting worn out due to disease and age. decrepitude. This is decrepitude. Aptitude, something like that. Decrepitude. So birth, decrepitude, and death. The way to understand the second word, decrepitude, is it means getting worn out, the body getting worn out due to disease and age. So this is what it is. Pain is, the source of pain is, because I am living, there is pain. Because I am living, there is pain. Existence will cause me pain. Even if before I come into existence, I spend about 10 months or 9 months in the mother's womb in darkness. That's also painful, because what all the mother is taking, maybe if she is taking something very unpalatable to the small soul inside, that also goes into him. So there's a lot of pain which the person who is trying to come out through the mother's womb is suffering. So existence is suffering. Existence is a source of pain, which includes birth and the body getting worn out due to disease and age, and then death. These 3 are the reasons of existence, or the parts of existence, and existence is pain. That is what has been explained. In the whole life of existence, these 3 things takes place: birth, getting worn out, maybe because of age and disease, and death taking place. This is what it means to exist. So because one is existing, there is pain. If there is existence of form, there is the presence of pain and the resultant suffering. So again, he's explaining the same thing. If there is existence of form, see, form completely devoid of form, the spirit has reached a stage of nirvana. Completely, there's not even a semblance of a form. Only then the spirit has reached the stage of nirvana. So nirvana is a state where he doesn't necessarily have to take another birth, jivan mukta. So that's the stage he has reached. But talking about prajna paramitas and all that, the philosophy of Buddha talks about the various problems which are there before we reach that stage of nirvana. So spirit is free of 4 truths. He talked about the way to the annihilation of pain. The root is formed. Number 1, The annihilation of pain takes place, number 2. And number 3, no new production of pain is there. And 4, completely free of pain. Then the spirit is completely free of all this. And having considered that, he comes back to the question, what is the source of pain? So pain is because of existence, because you have a life to lead. That's painful. That life means birth, the body getting worn out due to disease and age, and third, death. So these are the 3 reasons. The same thing is explained further. If there is existence of form, there is a presence of pain and the resultant suffering. Because the body is there, there is pain. Because life is there, there is pain. So presence of pain goes along with the existence or life. This is one more additional statement so that we understand it correctly. Spirit has no form and so doesn't experience pain. Spirit has no form and so doesn't experience pain. Spirit is always existing. Spirit is always existing. We called it immortal some time back. We called it immortal. It has no death. At least till such time this spirit becomes part of the universal spirit. We call it relatively. That's why relatively, because finally it merges with the universal spirit, perhaps it loses its identity. But till that time, when it is reached the stage of nirvana or jivan mukta, it has no pain and it is also immortal. Immortal means no death. Spirit is always existing. When the man reaches the point of utterly spiritual and has no form, so no pain, and so continues to be in a state of bliss. So when the man reaches the point of utterly spiritual, means no physical element is there in him. He is all spirit. So he has reached the stage of utterly spiritual, means completely spiritual. So he has no form, so no pain, and so he continues to be in a state of bliss. Bliss is Brahmananda, not just happiness or enjoyment or pleasure or anything like that. Much, much beyond all that, it is considered Brahmananda, that is bliss. So man in his objective form, as we see him today, as we are familiar with him today, that is his objective form, is annihilated. It is killed or removed or spoiled. Man in his objective form is annihilated, but the spiritual entity with its subjective nature will live forever. And we have seen spirit is not corruptible and has no death, and so it is immortal. So this repetition of the words, repetition of the ideas is happening over and over again. And yes, maybe I could have avoided a bit, but then I closed the book and write. So when I referred whether it is there so many times, it is there in the book also so many times. I don't know how it happened. I could have done something. I could have perhaps mentioned it once and removed the whole thing. The spirit is existing, the life disappears, the form disappears. Spirit is immortal, life in the form is not immortal, it is mortal. The form dies, the spirit always exists. This is what we need to remember. Because we live, there is pain. Because the body is there, there is pain. Life means 3 things: birth, getting worn out or living with that body, and then death. So these are all the basic things I think she has started to feed us. And she first talked about nirvana, reaching the stage where one need not take birth again. So now finally she says, spiritual entity with its subjective nature will live forever. And we have seen spirit is not corruptible. Sometime back we heard ether is not corruptible. So she says spirit is also incorruptible. When there is a form, there is a possibility of corruption. When there is a form, there is a possibility of corruption. But the spirit per se is always pure. If you remember some of the prayers which have been translated, they say the soul is more swachhata, pure than ice. It's ice is very pure. It looks very white and pure. So soul is something like that. So pure. So that's why spirit is not corruptible and has no death. So it is immortal. Okay. So Buddha and Pythagoras recognized each other's doctrines and they complemented each other. Both Buddha and Pythagoras recognized each other's doctrines and they complemented each other. The universal soul, this is a slightly different matter. We have moved away from spirit and form. The universal soul, the anima mundi, we have talked about this also in the past in the old classes. The universal soul, the anima mundi, and that is the one which reaches nirvana. Buddha is a generic name. Okay, the universal soul, the anima mundi, and that is one which reaches nirvana. Means the soul which is part of the universal soul, the spirit which is part of the universal spirit, that gets the stage of nirvana. Yes, that is only the logical understanding we have to have. We have a spirit in us. We have also the forms with us. The forms are all going to be temporary. The spirit is going to be permanent. That spirit has to reach a stage by going on experiencing, coming again into this life again and again, again and again, and work out such a way that the form is not important, spirit is important. So we have to reach a stage where spirit is incorruptible and spirit is forming part of the universal spirit. The universal soul, the anima mundi, and reaching that stage is nirvana. Okay, this is another way of putting it. Buddha, the term Buddha is a generic name. Buddha is a generic name, means anybody can have that name, whoever reaches that stage of Buddhahood. That's what it means. We normally say Siddhartha, he became Buddha, Gautama Buddha, because he reached the stage, having reached the stage of enlightenment, and after that he is called Buddha. Buddha Jivi means person who has understood what exactly the Buddhic content of his Atma is. So Buddhi Prachodanam, that's where what has happened to him. So he became Buddha. So Buddha is a generic name. Anybody can reach the stage. It is a state of divine essence as described by Pythagoras. Buddha is a generic name. It is a state of divine essence as described by Pythagoras. When that Buddha essence is godly essence, when that essence is not taking any form, it is resting in bliss and silence. Having spoken about nirvana, having defined nirvana as universal soul, and reaching that stage is nirvana, actually reaching a stage where you don't have to take birth is nirvana, is what Buddhism says. But then this particular statement means this individual spirit also gets merged with the universal spirit. That's one step ahead of nirvana, right? Now, the emphasis on Buddhahood. Buddha is a generic name. Buddha is a generic name. It is a state of divine essence as described by Pythagoras. So when that Buddha essence is godly essence, when that essence is not taking any form, it is resting in bliss and silence. So having reached Buddhahood, having become a Buddha, then it is resting in bliss and silence. It has reached a godly stage. The godly essence is there in him. So he has become godly, and the essence is godly, and he is resting in peace, resting in silence, resting in bliss. At that stage, he is formless. At that stage, he is formless. No form. It is spirit which has reached that stage. So we know that in the beginning itself, we have studied that. If there is any semblance of form, he cannot even reach the stage of Jivan Mukta. So at that stage, he is formless, but a deitic essence. Deity means godly. Deity means godly. At that stage, he is formless, but a deitic essence. That essence pervades all over the universe. So godly essence is there all over the universe. So God, his influence is there all over the place. When even this Buddha has reached the stage of his spirit getting merged with the universal spirit, he has also reached the stage of godly essence, and that essence pervades all over the universe. Whenever that godly essence manifested assumed a form to be recognized and understood by humanity. Whenever he comes down with at all knowing intellect, we call it as an avatara. What is an avatara? This is what she seemed to have explained. How is it? How does it come? See, this godly essence which has reached the stage of God, or I'm not talking about God, capital God, a God, godly essence. When that godly essence again gets manifested, it assumes a form and it comes down onto the earth and is recognized and understood by humanity as a form. Whenever he is coming down like that, with that all knowing intellect, means there is nothing which that person who is taking birth doesn't know. He is all knowing, means Sarvantaryami or omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. That sort of a birth he is going to take. So when he comes down, he is recognized and understood by humanity. And when he comes down with all knowing intellect means he knows there's nothing which he doesn't know. Omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, that all three qualities. We then call that coming down as an avatara. When that godly essence reaches the ground, reaches the earth, and it is in such a stage where it knows everything, and humanity also recognizes that, and then that person who has come down for the sake of humanity, we call that as an avatara. Avatarana means coming down. Avatarana means coming down. So godly essence comes down once in a way to again help humanity. So this is avatara. That essence has taken, that godly essence has taken various forms, called by some as Logos or Christos and so many other names. So this godly essence has taken so many forms. Logos is a word for God in Greek. Logos, Logos, is a word used to describe God. So godly essence, and he becomes Bhagavan, or he becomes almost godly again when he takes a birth here and leads a life which is full of living life for others. So he becomes God again. And Christos, the spirit which occupied Christ is Christos. The spirit which occupied Christ is Christos. So that is also that godly essence. It is all one and the same thing, whatever name you call it. You call it Rama, you call it Krishna, you call it Christ, you call it something else, you call Buddha. All these names, you are talking about only one godly essence. It takes various forms to help humanity, to guide humanity. It comes back once in a way. So that is an avatara, and it has so many names. Some Greek people call it as Logos. The Christians, the old Christians, is called as Christos. And Sanatana Dharma has got different names for that same thing, maybe as Krishna, as Rama, or so many names. It is all over and the same thing. It is all one and the same thing. These avatars are one and the same thing. The same essence is taking so many forms. That immortal spirit descends to an earthly form, occupies a body, and that form works for the sake of humanity and shows a path of realization to humanity. That's the purpose of that particular form coming onto the ground or coming onto the earth. That immortal spirit descends to the earth and takes a form, takes a body, occupies a body, and it will do the work and show the path of realization to humanity. It will live like a human being. It will live like a human being. It has got the human form all right. So it works like a human being. And then the main purpose of that person coming down, avatara, is to show a path of realization to humanity. So this is the purpose of avatara. The doctrine says every man can become Buddha. This is a wonderful statement. Every man, we have got capability to become Buddha. Whether we become Buddha or not become Buddha is an ultimate different thing. But everybody has got the capacity to become Buddha, irrespective of he or she, because soul has no sex. Soul has no sex. It is the spirit which has got to that stage. It is not the body which has gone to that stage. So we should remember the doctrine says every man, just because it said man doesn't mean woman is not included. Every soul, maybe we can put it that way. The doctrine says every soul can become Buddha, at least definitely reach a state of divinity, become a God, uniting himself with the capital G, capital God. So this is what he can do. Anybody can do. This is the line which a person has to take and live on. Right? People who achieve divinity are called in the Buddhistic philosophy as arahats. People who achieve divinity are called arhats. Arhata. Arhata means eligibility. So they have reached a stage of divinity. They are called arhats by the Buddhists. When the Buddhist teachings, which are allegorical, if the allegories are dropped, that is really the essence of what Pythagoras has taught. So Buddhistic philosophy has lot of stories, and everything is appearing as an allegory. Allegory means on top of it, it looks like a story, but behind the story, there is another meaning for it. So if you drop all those allegories, and only take the essence which is there in the allegory, that is Pythagorean theory. That is Pythagoras, what he taught his disciples. So he didn't perhaps teach in parables. Buddha taught everything in parables. So some people understood only parables as the ultimate thing, but there are only few people who have been exposed to the intricate meaning of the parable, the innate meaning of parable. That innate meaning of parable is the real Buddhism. And the outer form is just a story, a parable. So when we remove this allegorical content, that is dropped. That is really the essence of what Pythagoras has taught. So Pythagoras has taught Buddhism in essence by removing all the story element of it, allegorical element of it. So that's what Pythagoras taught. In the Jataka tales, we're all familiar with Jataka tales, isn't it? Jataka tales, there are descriptions of 550 incarnations Buddha took. In the Jataka tales, there are descriptions of 550 incarnations of what Buddha took. So for a Buddha, it took 550 births. So you can imagine, to become a Buddha, that's the time he took. So he has taken so many forms, like a form of a bird, a form of a beast, form of an insect, an animal, and then a man. So we can't take those stories literally again. Jataka tales, we can't take those stories literally. They describe the forms and movement of life from one form to another. So it talks about what? First he took the form of a bird, then a beast, then an insect, then an animal, and then a man. So the progression of something which was crawling to a person who was walking, which is man. So we can't take them literally, says the author, HPB. They describe the forms and movement of life from one form to another. Though we see the human spirits are so many, numberless, means we can't count them. Though we see the human spirits are so many, numberless, but all that collectively seen is one. This is what exactly Theosophy is talking about. Though we see the human spirits are so many, numberless, not only human spirit, even the rest of the spirit which is existing in mineral, vegetable, animal, and even the elementary kingdoms, there is only one spirit, oneness which is there in all this. So here he's talking about, though we see the human spirits are so many, numberless, we can't count them, but all that collectively seen is one. All that collectively seen is one. That oneness is what we are trying to visualize and realize. So we have to realize that first within our own hearts. So this is what he's talking about. Though we see the human spirit are so many, numberless, so many are there, so many numbers are there, but all that collectively seen is one. So there's only one which has become so many. One has become many. Every drop of ocean may have, if one wants to distinguish, an independent existence. Every drop of ocean may have if one wants to distinguish, have an independent existence. So every bubble or every drop of ocean, not bubble, every drop of ocean, it may have independence. It is part of the great ocean, but so this is what is being tried to be explained. Every drop of ocean may have, if one wants to distinguish, have an independent existence. So we all are appearing independent, like the water drops. The water drops is appearing independent, but all those drops put together becomes a great ocean. Similarly, we are all independent, but the spirit in us, if it becomes one, we're only one. The form may be different, but the entire spirit, if we put together, it's only one. So every drop of ocean may have, if one wants to distinguish, have an independent existence, but all these drops go to form the great ocean. The great ocean. The great ocean is G is capital. Each individual is a part of or a spark of that one scintillating, all-pervading light. In each individual is a part of or a spark of that one scintillating, all-pervading light. It's only one light which has become so many rays have become so many individuals. So all these rays put together, then it becomes the scintillating light. So each individual and every individual is part of or a spark of that one scintillating, all-pervading light. All-pervading light. It's that light is universal. Anywhere and everywhere it is there. And one scintillating means very, very shiny, wonderful, scintillating light, all-pervading light. And each individual is part or a spark of that one scintillating light. Scintillating means you have no words to describe. That's the quality of light. The same spirit animates a flower, a particle in a granite of a mountain, the lion, the ox, and the man. This is what it is. The same spirit animates a flower, a particle in a granite of a mountain, the lion, the ox, and the man. So all this, the same essence is animating it or is active in all these forms. So touched upon a vegetable, which is flower, touched upon a mineral, which is a mountain, then the animal, the lion and the ox, and finally the man. Because we're not talking about elemental kingdoms all the time. They're also part of the creation. The same spirit animates a flower, a particle in a granite of a mountain, the lion, the ox, and the man. Hierophants normally means the people who head a teaching sthana, mathadipati, as we call them in our Sanatana Dharma. They are called hierophants. So people who are occupying the highest position in the religion, say in Hermes time or in Christian time, they were all called hierophants. Hierophants, Brahmanas, and the Buddhists of the East also say hierophants are the people who are heading the religion at the highest position. Brahmanas and the Buddhists of the East also say that spirit, that principle which animates a particle or a speck of dust, it animates man. So the same thing is there in the dust, the particle of dust. The same spirit is also there in the man. So in what way man is superior? Man has to realize that just the same thing which is there in the speck of a dust is also there in the body of a man. So this is something which all the people agree. Hierophants, people who are heading the religious places, Brahmanas, and the Buddhists of the East, they say the spirit, that principle which animates a particle or a speck of dust, it animates man. There is that latent power which is existing in the same. So in every spirit, in every speck of dust or in every form of life, there is latent power. Whose latent power? The ultimate spirit's latent power is existing. So that principle which animates a particle or a speck of dust, it animates man too. So there is that latent power which is existing and which is same in all forms of life. So the same spirit is existing in all forms of life. So the latent power is the same. The latent power existing in all the forms is the same. Even the Greek philosophers agreed on this. So Greeks had a slightly different story to talk about, but they also, after some time, they said the same spirit which is there in a dust, which is there in a speck of a dust, also there in an animal, also there in a mineral, also there in a flower or a plant, is also there in man. So this is something which the Greeks also agreed later on. Greek philosophers also agreed on this. The external forms of man, the external forms of man means the types of the varieties of forms this man has occupied over a period of time. The external forms of man disappear at death. The external form of man disappears at the time of death, but that man is in a state of highest activity, and there is no annihilation to the higher spiritual ego. The external form of a man may disappear at the time of death, but the man who is in a state of the highest activity, which is spirit, and there is no annihilation to that higher spiritual ego. So spirit is always living, spirit is immortal, is what we have studied. So spirit is immortal, the form is temporary, form is going, form is dying every time. So man occupies the forms die, but the spirit in man lives on and on and on. This is something which we need to understand. And she talks about the higher spiritual ego. I guess it is the same thing as what we understand now in the Atma Buddhi Manas, as we often talk about it in Theosophy. So we have to realize that God is not a thing. This is something very important. We have to realize that God is not a thing, not a concrete or visible thing. So how many people think like this? But our own Vishnu Sahasranama says, we do not know to which linga God belongs. He can be a Pumlinga or Strilinga, or it could be Napamsaka Linga. Napamsaka is object. The table is an Napamsaka Linga in Sanskrit. So the female Linga is, say, for example, Lakshmi. The male Linga is Vishnu. So it can be anything. That's what the Sanatana Dharma says. But here we have a statement which goes like this. We have to realize that God is not a thing, not a concrete or visible thing. We cannot name it like we name an object on earth. We have to realize that God is not a thing, not a concrete or a visible thing. We cannot name it like we name an object on earth. So it is said is agrahya. We cannot name it. We can't think about it. Achintya. We can't comprehend it. We can't understand it. We can't talk about it. So that is God. So how can we name it? How can we put it in a form? That's not possible. So here we have ended today, and this is the end of the 9th chapter, which has taken us quite some time. Even today, I guess there were a lot of repetitions which happened as far as the form and matter is concerned, and matter and spirit is concerned. So maybe if we had avoided repetitions, I could have finished it maybe 5-10 minutes earlier. I went through because I wrote it, and then when I saw it, it was there. I thought it should continue for the sake of understanding it better. More number of times the same thing is repeated again and again. Form is temporary, spirit is permanent. Form disappears, spirit is always there. Form is immortal, spirit is immortal. I think we remember this again and again. So it has to be driven into us. That's the reason why perhaps it has been repeated. So thank you. This is what we have done today. The 9th chapter is over. We'll begin next Wednesday with the 10th chapter.